This young man is only 16 years old, but he already earns 400,000 baht a month by playing games and selling in-game items. When he went to university, he often skipped classes to sell roasted chestnuts and made a lot of money. At 19, he founded a dried seaweed company. At 21, he paid off more than 40 million baht in debt for his family. By the age of 26, his fried seaweed products had been exported to 27 countries, with annual revenue reaching 1.5 billion baht. He is none other than Itthipat, Thailand's youngest entrepreneur and startup founder. Everyone can learn something from him, but how was he able to achieve all this? Let's join Quang Phim and watch the movie The Billionaire to find out the answer. This young man is named Top, a mischievous rich kid who doesn't like studying and is addicted to gaming. While he was battling in the game, someone took a liking to his weapon and was willing to pay 10,000 baht to buy it. Top was skeptical, but he entered his bank account number and actually received the money. This made him realize a business opportunity. When he got home, he immediately sold all the remaining weapons in the game and easily earned hundreds of thousands of baht. He took this money to buy a supercar and drove it to school. His actions were criticized by the principal, but he didn't care at all. Now, he had become the heartthrob of the school, attracting attention wherever he went. That evening at home, his parents found out and thought he had done something wrong. They urged him to focus on his studies and not to make them worry. But he didn't care at all and continued playing games and selling items. His notebook had turned into a mouse pad. Top showed he was quite the spender when it came to buying electronic products. Whenever he liked something, he would buy it right away. The result was just as expected. Top failed the university entrance exam and had to apply to a private school. In the living room, he overheard his parents arguing about the expensive tuition fees at the private school. It was only then that he realized his family was in serious debt. Top wanted to help his parents pay off the debt, but his game account was locked by the server due to frequent offline transactions. "Don't mess with me like this," Top said, feeling a bit disappointed, but he didn't give up. He glanced at the newly bought DVD game console and immediately came up with a new idea. This type of game console was a free gift that came with the purchase of a TV, which showed that its cost was not high. If he could buy a large quantity at a very low wholesale price and then sell them to others at a higher price, he could make a significant profit from the difference. So Top used his tuition money to buy 500 units at once. If it succeeded, he could earn several hundred thousand. But after returning home, he was stunned. All of these DVD consoles were counterfeits, and most of them were broken and unusable. He went to the owner to reason with him, but the owner said that once the goods had left the store, they could not be returned. He even mocked Top, saying that DVD players priced at 500 baht were obviously fakes. "You get what you pay for, there's no such thing as cheap and good." Top was furious and smashed the DVD player down, unexpectedly breaking the glass display case. The owner, enraged, slapped Top across the face, scaring him into running away. Top's first attempt at starting a business had failed. In the end, it was still his father who cared for him the most. His father reminded him that doing business wasn't as simple as playing games, then took out a stack of money and told Top to use it for his tuition, but Top firmly refused to accept it. But school was still a must, so Top came up with another idea. He secretly went to his father's study, stole his father's Buddha amulet, and pawned it for 100,000 baht, finally having enough money to pay the tuition. But in class, all he could think about was how to earn enough money to redeem the Buddha amulet for his father, so he couldn't focus on studying and often skipped class to go out. That day, he saw an automatic chestnut roasting machine at the fair. Roasted chestnuts are a popular and affordable snack loved by many people, but they are only available in Chinatown. Not only is it far away, but you also have to wait in line for a long time. If he could open a roasted chestnut shop nearby, he would definitely make a lot of money. Thinking of this, Top didn't hesitate and immediately bought a chestnut roasting machine. After that, he went to Chinatown to learn how to roast chestnuts. When he returned, he kept practicing, and eventually was able to make delicious roasted chestnuts. Then, Top rented a stall in a shopping mall to sell roasted chestnuts, but sales were poor. He only sold a few portions a day. So, where exactly was the problem? Top listened to the sales pitches of other street vendors. He suddenly realized that having a good product was just the foundation. To run a successful business, he needed to learn how to promote his product. So, Top went to the market, a place that might seem ordinary, but actually held valuable marketing and product promotion skills. Offering free gifts and deep discounts is certainly the most direct form of marketing, but the most important thing is choosing the right location. For example, if you're raising funds for charity, you should stand in front of a public restroom, the busiest spot, so that everyone passing by will donate a little. Top took notes on everything and, upon returning, immediately began to change his sales approach. He moved his roasted chestnut stall to the entrance of the shopping mall. As expected, with more foot traffic, his chestnuts sold very well and he made a lot of money. Top happily said, "Why don't we open a few more branches?" But the good times didn't last long. The smoke from the chestnut roasting machine blackened the ceiling of the shopping mall. The manager asked Top to make adjustments, otherwise he would no longer be allowed to rent the space. To avoid disturbing others, Top had no choice but to repaint the ceiling after the mall closed. He painted until midnight and was just about to finish. But just then, the security guard came over and told him to leave. Seeing this, Top took out some money, trying to solve the problem with cash. But unexpectedly, the security guard told Top's mother, "You should teach your son better." Then he returned the money to Top and urged them to leave. Top was dissatisfied and said he would come back again tomorrow. But his mother told him that they had to go get their passports the next day. "Our family has gone bankrupt. We can't stay here any longer." Top's parents planned to take him to live with his older siblings. But the chestnut shop had just started to do well, so Top was unwilling to leave like that. So Top persuaded his parents to let him and the housekeeper stay here to continue selling roasted chestnuts. He completely neglected his studies, but the problem with the ceiling still couldn't be solved perfectly. In the end, Top was still kicked out of the shopping mall. He was depressed for a long time. Until that day, when he and his girlfriend went out to relax for a bit, his girlfriend bought a box of fried seaweed. Top took a bite and couldn't stop. This dried seaweed seemed to have an irresistible appeal. Suddenly, Top had an idea. He wanted to sell dried seaweed too. At first, he bought pre-fried dried seaweed to sell, but it couldn't be preserved for long. It spoiled in less than a week. So he went to the agricultural university and asked a food processing professor for advice on how to preserve dried seaweed. The professor was moved by Top's story and shared the preservation method with him. The key was to use vacuum-sealed bags. All he needed was a vacuum sealer. Now, the question was how he could make it taste even better. Top nodded in agreement, sold all his chestnut roasting machines, bought a large amount of dried seaweed, and prepared to fry it himself. He put the dried seaweed into a pan of oil, using tongs to constantly flip it back and forth. After waiting for it to harden, he tried a piece. It was too bitter. He failed the first time, so he tried again. This time, it was too greasy. No matter how the butler fried it, he just couldn't make delicious fried seaweed. After countless frying experiments, all the dried seaweed was gone, and he still hadn't managed to make a decent batch. Top had no choice but to sell his favorite computer to get more money to buy seaweed. With this money, he could buy 5 to 6 boxes of seaweed. The butler couldn't stand by and watch any longer. They had already wasted 100,000 baht, and if they kept frying, they would waste even more. But Top was very determined. Having already spent 100,000 baht, now he couldn't give up. He believed that the money he had lost would eventually be earned back, and not only that, he would earn much more. That evening, when he brought the seaweed home, he discovered the butler lying motionless on the floor, bleeding from the head. Top hurriedly took the butler to the hospital. At the hospital, he sat alone on the bench. This was a difficult time for him, but those who can overcome adversity will succeed. He returned home, turned on the stove, and tossed the seaweed in hot oil for a moment. Then he took it out to drain the oil and tasted the seaweed. You could see his expression suddenly change, and then he immediately spat out the seaweed. The dried seaweed was almost all fried up. The hot oil splattered, causing many injuries to his hands. Years later, those scars still remained. Looking at the empty container, he wondered if this attempt at starting a business was going to fail. Suddenly, he noticed there was still a bag on the ground. Top put it into the oil to fry. He saw that the surface of the seaweed was very dry and not oily at all. This was exactly what he wanted. Top took a bite to try it, and it was really crispy. This time, he was ready. He ate it all up. Top picked up the bag of seaweed and discovered that it was very damp inside. It turned out that the secret to frying seaweed was to soak it in water first. This bag of seaweed was the one that had gotten wet from the rain. Sometimes, the secret is something completely ordinary. He hurriedly brought his results to show the butler. Top's seaweed quickly became popular with everyone. The business gradually started to thrive. He wrote 1 million baht a year on the palm of his hand. But that day, Top received a call from his mother and learned that the family still owed 40 million baht. Top felt so small. He realized he would have to sell seaweed for 40 years to pay off this debt. To make matters worse, the house had also been repossessed by the bank. Now he no longer had a home to return to. But even so, Top did not give up. If he wanted to make money, he needed to think bigger and look further ahead. He set his sights on the 7-Eleven store chain. If he could collaborate with them and have his products sold nationwide, he would surely make a lot of money. So he brought his seaweed to the product director of 7-Eleven. But the other party flatly refused. The packaging was too large, the design was unattractive and couldn't draw in customers, and on top of that, the price he offered was too high, which didn't fit the convenience store's characteristics. Top was a bit disappointed and went home, but then his girlfriend came to see him. She suggested letting her family help him, but Top was very principled and didn't want her to help. Feeling self-conscious about his own situation, he decided to break up with his girlfriend. That night, he went to see the housekeeper, and, exhausted, lay down next to him and fell asleep. But he was not someone who would give up after just one failure. Early the next morning, he hurriedly brought his fried seaweed product to a food company to ask them to redesign the packaging. This time, the seaweed package had a completely new look. But the secretary told him that the director would be in meetings all day. He said he would wait. He patiently waited from 1 o'clock, but only saw the director busy inside and never coming out to meet him. Top was starting to lose his patience. Disappointed, he took his seaweed and left, then gave his seaweed to the security guard in the elevator. Unexpectedly, the next day he received a notice that his product could now be sold. It turned out that the staff at headquarters found the bag of seaweed he left behind eye-catching, so they took a few packs back to the office to try. After one bite, they couldn't help but lick their fingers. His seaweed quickly spread throughout the company and reached the director's desk. She was pleased. Top was invited. His seaweed product could be distributed in 3,000 stores and 72,000 convenience stores nationwide. A month later, a QC team would come to inspect the quality. As long as his factory meets the quality standards, he can sign the contract. But where is Top going to find a factory now? His production site is just a family kitchen, which doesn't meet the requirements at all. He goes to the bank hoping to get a loan to open a factory. The bank staff saw that he was only 19 years old, and moreover, his family was already in debt by 40 million baht. With their house still in the process of being auctioned off by the court, unable to get a bank loan, Top once again found himself at a dead end. He turned the music up as loud as possible and sat in his car, shouting at the top of his lungs. Next, Top sold his favorite car and rented back his family's former warehouse, renovating it into a seaweed production factory. On his way back from buying renovation materials, Top happened to see his ex-girlfriend holding hands with someone else. Top stood there in shock, frozen in place. He worked and slept together with the workers. That night, he asked the housekeeper what he should do if he failed again. The housekeeper told him not to overthink it, as no one can predict the future. He personally designed every corner to make sure everything was ready in time for the QC team's inspection. However, when they came to visit the factory, they discovered many major issues. Paint dust on the walls still stuck to the hands, and there were even flies. The fluorescent lights had no covers, and the sinks were unsanitary. Top immediately promised to fix everything, but they said they needed to go back and discuss, and would inform him once they had a decision. At that moment, the housekeeper slipped an envelope into his hand, telling him to give it to them as a favor. But Top chose not to do that. If you do something, you should do it thoroughly. He was determined to resolve all the remaining issues. The sinks were improved. All the workers wore gloves and hair covers. Fluorescent lights were fitted with covers. Today, the quality inspection results have arrived. But just as he got to the results, the printer ran out of ink. Top hurried outside, holding the paper up to the sunlight. On the result, there was a single word, passed. All his efforts had finally paid off. 2 weeks later, on the delivery day, after washing his face, Top looked at the workers busily working. He ran over and gave the housekeeper a big hug. He thanked him for always being there to help, and said that if they failed this time, they would truly have nothing left. After that, Top loaded the goods onto the truck and set off. But when he arrived at the delivery warehouse, he was already an hour late. Top earnestly pleaded with the staff to accept his delivery. He had stayed up all night until 5 in the morning just to finish loading the truck. Hearing this, the staff agreed to help him. And so, each box of Top seaweed was moved into the warehouse. Sitting and looking at the empty shelves in front of him, Top called his parents. "Now, you can come home." In the end, Top seaweed succeeded and was sold all over the country. Over the next 2 years, Top paid off the 40 million debt. At the age of 26, his factory had 2,000 workers. His products were exported to 27 countries, with annual revenue reaching 1/5 of a billion baht, placing him among the 50 richest people in Thailand. The film is a true story about the founder of Thai cafe, named Itthipat, and tells of the difficulties he faced when starting his business. A question from the film: have you ever tried Thai cafe seaweed? If you have, is it really as delicious as it is in the movie? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching the entire video. Goodbye, and see you next time.